Domestic violence victims often use alcohol as a coping mechanism. Women experiencing domestic violence are up to 15 times more likely to develop alcohol dependence. And research carried out by Humphreys in 1995 found that approximately 2/3 of domestic violence survivors reported developing problematic substance misuse following their experiences of domestic violence. Impact on children. Children whose parents drink too much can suffer a range of physical, psychological and behavioural problems, including long-term psychological problems such as anxiety, depression and eating disorders. As the nature and severity of alcohol problems bear effects on children, but what is clear is that in every study, both nationally and internationally, children of problem drinkers have higher levels of alcohol than children of non-alcoholics. Children often become young carers for problem drinkers, taking on responsibilities that are well beyond their years. This can affect their education, leading to underachievement, and often many young carers dropping out of school altogether. It can also affect peer relationships, leading to isolation and social exclusion. Children often become embroiled in protecting one parent against another, and often mediating between parents and other family members. Children also tend to see parental problems as their faults and develop feelings of guilt, and they might be concerned about their parents' ability to protect them, and this hinders their ability to trust others. Children often experience or witness verbal, physical or sexual abuse. In 40 to 70% of domestic violence cases, children are directly affected themselves, and alcohol-related domestic violence increases the risk of harm to children. We also know a part in 25 to 33% of known cases of child abuse. Alcohol Concern's previous parenting project highlighted the need for more work in this area. Alcohol Concern consulted a number of services, and the vast majority said that they wanted to increase their work with families but needed a lot more support in this area. They also highlighted that domestic violence issues were frequently missed due to the lack of expertise and lack of confidence within their workforce to assess and work with domestic violence issues. Despite the damage that it causes, the effects of alcohol misuse within families has been under-recognised and neglected in terms of service provision. Where services do exist, they tend to have focused on parental drug misuse, even though research shows that 5 times as many children are likely to be affected by alcohol misuse as by drug misuse. Research carried out by Alcohol Concern in 2004 found that there were only 59 such initiatives out of more than 650 alcohol services. Finally, over recent years there's been a strong political focus and increase in spending on family support initiatives in the UK. Tackling domestic violence is also high on the policy agenda. Safe, Sensible Social, its latest alcohol strategy, aims to reduce the levels of harm in relation to alcohol amongst children and families. Hidden harm has also highlighted the needs of children and young people affected by parental substance misuse. Policy dictates that all agencies that come into contact with children in need or their parents, including adult drug or alcohol services, must be seen as having a responsibility to support and protect them. This was made clear in the Children's Act 2004 and also in Every Child Matters, which places a duty on professionals who come into contact with families to safeguard children and promote their well-being through partnership working. And finally, the Domestic Violence National Action Plan highlights the importance of early intervention and prevention to protect adult and child victims through local partnerships.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being in attendance this afternoon. And before Yellis goes, thank you very much, Yellis. I know you've had a long journey, you've got a long journey back. Fortunately, we've always had a strong relationship with alcohol, taking part in service user groups, and we actually lead their service user focus group, which works nationally. Right at the moment, in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be doing the last part of the family alcohol concerns family training, and I can now officially announce that we've put in a bid to take part in the Embrace project, so hopefully that will be coming to Sunderland too. Thanks to support we have from different organisations in Sunderland, particularly social services, I think it would be a good thing to bring. I mean, the knock-on effect of that, of one agency going into a project like that, getting all the training and everything like that is something we can pass on to other agencies as well. So anyways, 5 years ago it was a hopeful concept, an idea. I was going through the revolving door of treatment for about 5 years, and each time I'd been given treatment I was told to go to AA, that's Alcoholics Anonymous, and I went and I didn't like it, but there was nowhere else for me to go, so I decided to do something about it. Now we have neraf. It's not a hopeful concept anymore, it's an effective reality, making a difference to many, many lives in the North East. In Sunderland alone, in this last year, we've had 6,048 attendees at our 12 support groups. That breaks down to 533 individuals. A further 584 people accessed our one-to-one mentoring service. We now have carers groups as well, because the majorities of calls we were getting were from a carer, a partner, a wife, a husband, a son, a daughter, asking for advice for their loved one about their alcohol misuse, and we thought it was highly appropriate. Well, can we offer you some support as well? Because often the families are the forgotten ones, and as Yellies has just indicated, our drinking has a massive effect on our families. We also run a women's only service, and that developed from Wearside Women in Need, who had lots of people staying in their different refuges who were misusing alcohol. They'd started drinking to, numb the pain of domestic violence. Before they knew it, they were drinking problematically. That is a service that we want to further develop. As I touched on briefly earlier, the Northern Rock funding, well, it certainly caused me many sleepless nights, because when we first put our application in, all was well with Northern Rock PLC. And then when we heard all the bad news in the press and whatnot, well, honestly, my heart sank. But we stuck through it, we were something special, and they delivered the goods. Surprisingly enough, we get very, very little funding from the health service. In fact, £25,000 a year. That is all we get, yet we're doing all this work. Most of our funding we go out and beg for ourselves. The trouble is with when you're applying for funding, you can fill an application in, and it can be 9, 12, 18 months before you get a result from it. So it's something that we're constantly having to plug away at. And as I mentioned earlier, this morning we've received £500 from the Rotary Club of Sunderland, which we will put to good use. We are all about, when a person has an alcohol problem, about them changing their lifestyle. Get busy with life again, it's the only way forward. So we bought some fishing rods so we can all go fishing on Sundays. So we've also called our group support room the Rotary room. That's what it is. That's the room where people go to turn their lives around. So once again to the Rotary Club, thank you very much. What's happened in this last year? Well, it's awesome. Not just here in Sunderland, but on a regional footing as well. We represent the voice of the service user at regional level with the North East Regional Alcohol Advisory Group. Earlier this year, Alcohol Concern involved us in developing a service user toolkit for service users to be involved in the commissioning process. In the same document, they announced that we were a national model of excellence that should be developed nationally. Drink and Drug News proclaimed us the Champion Alcohol Project for the second year in succession. And back to Lothley again, here in Hendon, the area of the city of Sunderland most affected by alcohol misuse, which sees a unique partnership with neraf from the voluntary sector and County 4, a detox agency where we see mentors supporting the work of the detox.